Well, we're going to move on to another topic, which I think is really interesting. Really, really, really interesting. It's to do with Bob Iger. It's to do with the MCU. It's to do with Disney. Everything. Literally just dropped. Bob Iger, Disney will reduce costs on film, TV shows to focus on quality, not volume. We've heard that already. I don't know why they're running this as exactly the same headline we've already seen. But the really interesting thing is coming from quotes, right? So this was at the Morgan Stanley conference. This is an investor conference, if I remember rightly. And we've heard some stuff from Warner Brothers on this as well. I've got some videos on that. I've made so many videos today, like 6 videos. So that's dropping later on. But there's some really interesting stuff. So he even comments about sequels. Basically, they're down the pan now. He doesn't even want to make sequels. So he goes, I'm really pleased that the support that I'm getting from the content creators of the company is significant and real. And it comes in the form of reducing the expense per content, whether it's a TV series or a film, where costs have just skyrocketed in a huge way and not a supportable way, in my opinion. They all agree to that, Iger said, adding that it was also about understanding how much volume we need, reducing how much we make, so it's how much we spend on what we make and how much we make. But this is just basic P&L. This is such dumb stuff. And it's also, we'll move on to the other section in a minute because I want to get to some specific things. But just to add here, this is so stupid because, you know, this is his own issue. These are things he's doing himself. And it's not like, you know, you're talking about content creators and things. I mean, you know, the budgets have skyrocketed. Yeah, because you're pushing people and pouring money into it and making them work up to the wire. So your content creators need to get, you know, and all the executives need to get their sort of acts in check. You can't be telling VFX people to keep working to the wire. Like, some of this stuff is just their own issue. It's just such nonsense. But this is the really interesting stuff. And as we look to reduce the content that we're crafting or creating for our own platforms, there probably are opportunities to license to third parties.
Oh.
For a while, that was verboten, or something we couldn't possibly do, because we were so favoring our own streaming platforms. But if we get to a point where we need less content for those platforms, what fucking point would you ever get to where you need less content for your own streaming platform? What? And we still have the capability of producing that content, why not use it to grow revenue? And that's what we would likely do. He's taking a leaf out of Zaslav's book. Disney is very strong, the most powerful brand, certainly in family entertainment. Not so much anymore. It'll remind you just how strong the brand is. This is to do with The Little Mermaid. And here, ladies and gents, is the really interesting thing. Perhaps off the back end of Ant-Man being a fucking bomb. What we have to look at Marvel, very specifically, Marvel, what we have to look at Marvel is not necessarily the volume of Marvel storytelling, but how many times we go back to the well on certain characters. Sequels typically work well for us, but do we need a third or a fourth, for instance? There's never been a fourth. Or is it time to turn to other characters? There's nothing in any way inherently off in terms of the Marvel brand. Yes, there is. I think we just have to look at what characters and stories we are mining. And if you look at the trajectory of Marvel over the next 5 years, you'll see a lot of newness. Now, we're going to turn back to the Avengers franchise, but with a whole set of different Avengers, as an example. Oh, any comment on the Marvel stuff? You start talking about Star Wars, but any comment on the Marvel stuff?
A-Force, well, we were talking about how they were running their movies into the ground, the MCU specifically. I mean, you know, they saw diminishing returns with Thor after Endgame, you know, and they saw diminishing returns with Ant-Man after Endgame. Ultimately, they're in a downward trajectory. I don't know if he thinks he's going to talk his way out of that. I mean, you're talking to investors, so you have to go in there with, you know, tap dancing shoes and, you know, a song and a dance and the whole nine. But he's somewhat delusional. I mean, he's delusional in saying, and you mentioned this, you called it out a second ago, when he says he's going to produce less content for your streaming. So you're smoking weed, dude. You're going to have to, like, seriously, like, keep that content burn up, because everybody and their mom doesn't really go to your channel for your back catalog anymore. You know, a lot of people own your back catalog.
Well, it's
And
literally people are like, when's it going to streaming?
yeah,
When's it going to streaming? They want the new thing.
yeah. And so if you don't make a new, you're stuck, man. You're stuck. And look, to be fair, and I know I made this point several times in the last couple of weeks, but he's not wrong. Sequels have been doing well for them, but 70% of everything released in 2022, big films, not independent stuff, but normal studio released films, 70% was either a sequel or a remake. 70%. And they've got to get away from that because people are looking for original material. And I think that speaks to why some of the reasons why you're seeing less appreciation of I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think it's sequel fatigue. I think it's like there's too much fluff out there that, isn't really anything other than to get you ready for the next fluff.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, sorry. Random thoughts.
No. Andre?
To me, it's this is like very telling in several ways.
Yeah.
One, going back to the streaming wars, this is something that we actually covered in our the streaming fallacy video that was put out last week, I think it was. That this is a complete reversal of the entire Disney Plus strategy. This is walking back everything they have been working towards the past half a decade. It's all being undone by, we need money now, so we need to license our content. This is an admission that their strategy hasn't worked. Because if it did, they would keep their content exclusive, but make it exclusive. You don't make any money. Now Disney needs money. So this is an act of desperation. That's the first thing. The second thing he said about sequels and everything like that, he's partially right. But the way that he said it is going to blow up in their faces. And especially what he said about the new, the next Avengers with a different team. This is true. The next Avengers movie is not going to bring back the Captain America we love and Hulk we love. No. It's going to bring in the new characters that we've seen in Phase 4. Because Kevin Feige has later stated Phase 4 was all about new introductions to the new Avengers that will follow. Namely She-Hulk, namely Shang-Chi, the Eternals, Moon Knight, all Miss Marvel, all of these frankly nobodies that the audience by and large didn't embrace. That's who we'll be following right now. And talking about sequels, how well do you think Eternals 2 is going to do? There has been 4 Thor movies. That's the one where there was a 4. And another Phase 4 bomb right there. So it's probably not going to be a Thor 5 because of it. So yeah, he's right in that. Their sequels haven't really worked out. Yeah, no, of course not. Phase 4, everything bombed. That was what he's referring to. Doctor Strange 2, that was the strongest of the bunch, but it still underperformed relative to expectations. Ant-Man Quantumania, a bomb. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, major underperformance relative to expectations. That's what he's going on about. Problem is, all of their new original characters, they're not taking off either. I mean, honestly, the strongest movie of the bunch is Shang-Chi. And I know Paul is a big fan of that one, but hardly anyone is. Or hardly everyone is, I meant to say. So even that one is divisive. And these are the people that will be leading the new Avengers going forward. And the characters that we now see as established and legacy, 10 years, if we go back 10 years, no one knew them. No one knew Ant-Man. No one knew Thor. No one knew Doctor Strange. Now everyone knows and loves them, but that's because they were introduced with passion and people accepted them instantly.
Well, even Iron Man,
Marvel had, Iron Man 2. He was also like a D-list character until the movie. But whatever happened, because all the characters that were introduced from Phase 1 up to Phase 3, with the exception of Captain Marvel, they were mass embraced by the audience and instantly accepted as these are heroes right now. And then in Phase 4, that stopped. Actually, it stopped with Captain Marvel, because there the rot had set in. And now the new introductions, they're just not being welcomed the same way because something has happened behind the scenes. And the magic that was there, that made each and every film grow from phase 1 up to phase 3, that magic isn't there anymore. And that's the problem that Bob Iger isn't touching on. It's not a matter of sequels or original movies. It's about that Marvel magic, and that's gone now. And then you can, with a sequel without that magic, you destroy a franchise. With a new introduction without that magic, that new character is gonna be rejected right away. Forget all about sequels. That is what's going to keep on screwing them. Now for phase 5, phase 6, and phase 7, people aren't interested, aren't embracing these characters. And even those that have their fans, like Shang-Chi, there's not enough embracing those characters.
Yeah. Paulie, you're looking like you're ready to slam
No,
down.
I mean, I would even just say that half of, the excitement and the reason why Shang-Chi did so well is because people were going back to the movies at that time, and it was the beginning of, besides Black Widow, which was, theatrically and streaming, that was a whole big mess. It was kind of the start of phase 4. You compared to Ant-Man, it's like, wow. But like Andre said, at best, it's divisive. I could still go back to certain parts of Shang-Chi and just watch for the action fighting sequences, which I thought were pretty cool. But I get it, I mean, that's not good. It's not a good thing of recommendation, watchability. So
true.
So yeah,